I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. Ooh. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only gon' play.
What's going on, guys? Jay Cam back with another video, and today I'm going to be breaking down Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 2.0. This is the second one they've putting out for this draft cycle. Please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agree or disagree with that I'll talk about in here, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content that I'm going to be putting out, whether it's free agency, NFL draft stuff, pro day stuff, combine stuff like that. So make sure to subscribe to the channel to be able to keep up with that. So going into Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 2.0, I do think he has a little bit more fun with this one. Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper are kind of the two main guys that I really like to look at because they're the ones with a lot of the NFL insiders, and they do it based on what they're hearing in the NFL draft. More Daniel Jeremiah does it that way. He was a former scout for many years, so his has a lot of weight to kind of how the scouts are actually thinking and kind of how they're kind of looking. So his definitely tells a lot based on where a lot of teams are looking at, based on who he has in his mock draft. I do think a lot of the running backs are starting to fly up boards. You know, he has three running backs in this class I know of before I even look at it. He put it on his Twitter. So, and he has it in the title. So we're gonna see. You go ahead and jump into this, see what he does here. At number one, he actually has Abdul Carter. This is still the pick. It's the big question right now. Usually, the number one pick is kind of already decided in a lot of drafts this year. It's very interesting because we don't know if they're going to go Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, or quarterback. Here, Daniel Jeremiah has them going with what a lot of people have been doing. If they don't go quarterback, they're going Abdul Carter actually at number one. With their president that ended up saying they're not going to pass up on a generational talent, Abdul Carter was that crazy edge pressure from Penn State, who actually just had his first year as a full-time edge player. So he's definitely one of the best players in the draft. It's either him or Travis Hunter, who are just the best overall players in this class. So the Titans are definitely passing up on quarterback. It seems like that they're going to roll the dice with Will Levis again here in this situation. And hopefully they're going to go for next year, possibly a quarterback if they want to move on from Will Levis in a quarterback class that's definitely more stacked. It definitely has better, more natural talent in it at the quarterback position. Sometimes though they can get a team, in danger though if they wait because I remember Patrick Mahomes' class with Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Mitch Trubisky. That was seen as a weak quarterback class, and everybody was waiting for 2018 with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and a lot of teams didn't take a quarterback, which led Patrick Mahomes going to 10, and the Chiefs ended up getting the best player in the NFL right now, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So that definitely could hurt the Titans, or it could end up helping them if a lot of these guys are bust, but they're going best player on the board. Number two is Cleveland going with Cam Ward. This is a sticky situation for Cleveland. I do think that they're going to go best player available, in my opinion. I think that they're either going to go Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, whichever one's there. In this situation, he does have him going Cam Ward. He does say they could look to go Travis Hunter, but they need a new usher in at quarterback. I do think Cleveland's going to go for the more veteran route, at least this year, because that Deshaun Watson contract might be the worst NFL contract in history of the league, and they're kind of stuck with it for right now. I don't know if he's going to be able to play next year. They said he had something that caused him to fall back in his rehab. So who knows if he's going to be around next year? Probably not. So they're either going to have to go veteran quarterback or they're going to have to get somebody to go in and play. And pretty much take it over while they still eat Deshaun Watson's contract that they're sitting on miserably for the next couple of years. But they go ahead and get their franchise quarterback. Hopefully, Cam Ward would work out in this situation so that they could eventually move on from Deshaun Watson and keep Cam Ward just stepping immediately. And then interesting here in New York, Giants go Travis Hunter. They end up going best player on the board. They actually end up passing on Shador Sanders. I don't know if they would actually do this in a real situation. You have Brian Dable, and you end up having Joe Shane on the hot seat. So they definitely do need a quarterback to try to prove that they have the franchise going in the right direction, that they're making the right choices. I think the Saquon Barkley loss on free agency definitely hurt the dynamic between the owner and GM at that point. And, it really just depends what they want to do. Maybe they trade for Matthew Stafford. There's been a lot of, hints at that and a lot of rumors at that. I don't think that will actually happen. And in this case, I do think that they got a quarterback, but Travis Hunter's on the board. You can't go wrong with that. He's arguably the best player in this class. Number four, New England Patriots go Will Campbell. This is definitely the worst situation in for the Patriots. If you're the Patriots, you're definitely hoping that two quarterbacks go in the top three, so that you can either get Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. But in this situation, they end up going getting offensive line for Drake May. I do think that the Patriots are going to look to add either an offensive weapon or an offensive lineman in free agency. So it kind of just depends. Once free agency hits in about a month, after that, we're definitely going to be able to fill out these picks a lot more based on what they do. Because if the Patriots go out in free agency in a month and they sign three offensive linemen, then they're probably going to go and get an offensive weapon like a Tedder McMillan here. Or if they go out and sign like a T. Higgins and Amari Cooper, then they're probably going to go offensive line or defense here. So it really just depends. Will Campbell, he's not necessarily my favorite offensive lineman. I'm kind of lower on him than what a lot of people are. I still think he's the second best, but I do think it's close compared to the other one. My number one tackle is Kelvin Banks, so if I'm taking a tackle, I'm probably going to take Kelvin Banks here. But it makes sense. You're getting protection for your franchise quarterback in Drake May. Number five, Jaguars go Mason Graham. This is kind of starting to become the lock pick. I could see a shocking move that Liam Cohen maybe he wants to get offensive weapons for his offense. He's coming from the Buccaneers. He just had Mike Evans, so maybe a Tedero McMillan here at number five could make sense for him. But Mason Graham is seen as the number three best player in this class overall. He is pretty much a force on the interior. He causes issues in the passing game on pass rush. He also is a great run stopper in the middle of the defense. And the Jaguars defense was one of the worst in the NFL on the interior of the defensive line. And they have their two edge set. Trayvon Walker's kind of come along and starting to show some promise. You have Josh Allen on the other side. So it really just depends what they want to do. If they want to get a corner here in Will Johnson, a weapon, or get one of the better players in the draft here, Mason Graham. And I think that this could help out to kind of cause havoc in the interior on defense for the Jaguars and step up their defensive unit. Number six, the Raiders get their quarterback, Shador Sanders. I think with Tom Brady calling a lot of the shots, Pete Carroll just came in, Chip Kelly just came in. They're definitely hoping that they can get one of these quarterbacks. And if they don't get Shador Sanders or Cam Ward, I think that they definitely could end up getting Jackson Dart in the early second or moving up into the late first to get Jackson Dart. It really just depends. But here in this situation, they end up getting their guy. I think they want Shador Sanders the most. I'm just not as high on Shador Sanders. I do think Cam Ward's the number one quarterback in my opinion. Shador just does too much at the wrong times. He's trying to go east west. I think he creates a lot of pressure for himself. He doesn't really get the ball out quick. He holds on to it a lot. And in the NFL, a lot of this stuff isn't going to fly like it does in college ball for a lot of these guys. And I think that he could hurt from that. But who knows? He's been around the NFL talent his entire life, so it might click for him if he gets the right development with, if Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly can kind of come in with Tom Brady, end up putting the word in, it might be able to help them out. Number seven, New York Jets. They're actually going Tyler Warren. As a Jets fan, I would not hate this pick. In my opinion, I do think that they are going to be leading towards defense, either an edge presence to be able to fill in for Jermaine Johnson after his torn Achilles. Who knows when he's going to be back? I do think that they're going to end up trying to go for an edge pressure if Mason Graham is on the board. But the perfect situation for the Jets is Mason Graham being here, but obviously he's taken. So he hasn't gone Tyler Warren. I would not hate this pick at all. It kind of just adds weapons for whoever your next quarterback's going to be. They're moving on from Rodgers. I do think that they're going to end up signing someone a free agent. I would love Jameis. It would be a very interesting season as a Jets fan if they ended up signing Jameis Winston. It would at least be entertaining. But Tyler Warren, he's more of that George Kittle type vibe. He blocks and he can receive. He's more of the line hand in the ground tight end that's going to go out and make a difference both in the passing game and the run game. So the Jets, they haven't had tight end for the very long time. They were kind of hoping Jeremy Ruckert could kind of develop into that. He hasn't really done too much. He's been kind of disappointing in my opinion as a fourth round pick. So they're ended up getting their star tight end. I think it's going to be hard because a lot of people are going to try to compare him to Brock Bowers, and he's a totally different type of receiver and tight end than Brock Bowers. But they go out and get some weapons for who their next quarterback's going to be. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers go Jalen Walker. I do think a lot of the mock draft analysts like Mel Kiper, Daniel Jeremiah, they love Jalen Walker and they have him going very high. He's kind of the guy that he was a mix between a linebacker and an edge. In the NFL, he's definitely going to be playing edge. He's a very versatile playmaker. Like Daniel Jeremiah says, he has enormous upside as a pass rusher. So I definitely do think he's going to end up playing in the edge spot. It's just, I don't know. For me, I usually have him in the 20s, so I don't. Number eight's a little bit rich for me for Jalen Walker. I would much rather have someone like a Mike Green or Mykel Williams and hope for the upside. But a lot of these guys usually have Jalen Walker in the top 10, so this is a guy that a lot of the media, and YouTubers, different things like that, are kind of sleeping on, and he's probably going to go a lot higher than what people really think. He's actually going to go. Number 9, the New Orleans Saints actually go edge. They don't go offensive line or anything. They go Mike Green. Mike Green is a beast. He was one of the biggest risers from the Senior Bowl. And in my opinion, I love Mike Green. I do think Mike Green's going to be a top 10 pick. A lot of people don't have him as a top 10 pick. I think he's going to go somewhere in the top 10, whether it's to the Panthers or the Saints. And he led college football in sacks. He led in tackles for loss, and he dominated the Senior Bowl. So he raised his stock up a lot. I think some team's gonna fall in love with him and end up taking him in this top 10. And I love this pick for the Saints. They definitely need to get younger because a lot of their main guys are starting to get older. They're starting to get older vets, so they definitely need to get younger and better spots, especially at that edge spot where they haven't really had a huge dominant edge presence in a couple of years since Cameron Jordan's gotten older. Number 10, Chicago Bears. Last time and a lot of people have had them going Ashton Jeanty here, but here they're going to go Kelvin Banks. I do like this pick for them. I think that they're either, this is another team. It really depends on what they do in free agency. If they go out in free agency and sign like two offensive linemen that are going to end up trying to be starters, then Ashton Jeanty is definitely in play here. And it's very interesting that he has three running backs going in the first round, and the Bears didn't take Jeanty. So, definitely shows this mock, but Kelvin Banks is my favorite tackle in this class. They do already have Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. So if you're taking this pick, Kelvin Banks is probably going to have to play guard for at least 1 year or maybe even two before maybe you move on from Braxton Jones and then you move Kelvin Banks out to tackle. But once again, free agency is definitely going to tell what happens here. But I do love this pick for the Bears with Kelvin Banks. It really just depends what they do in free agency. The 49ers, they go Will Johnson. They get possibly the best player on the board at this point. Will Johnson has slid a little bit. A lot of the NFL, the word is that the NFL is not as high on Will Johnson as everybody else is. So a lot of scouts are kind of questioning his speed and his kind of ability, especially with his injury that he was coming off of towards the end of the year. So at the combine, definitely depends how he is with his medicals and different doctors from teams are. So it really just depends in that situation. But he could be a very good lockdown corner. San Francisco does need help. I think that they would go trenches here. Honestly, they're either going to go offense line or defense line. But in this case, they're going best player available because Will Johnson falls into their lap, and they're going to be losing some of their safeties and their secondary. So with Robert Saleh back, they're going to be getting more of like their Sauce Gardner type building that defense that Robert Saleh would love. Number 12, Dallas Cowboys, they got Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan is one of those guys that can do both. He's a pass rusher and he's a run stopper. He rose his stock at the Senior Bowl. This is the pick that I usually make in my mock drafts. He's a great fit in Dallas. I love this pick, having Walter Nolan going to the Cowboys. The Cowboys have Micah Parsons on the edge. Everyone knows that. They have their corners that deal with injury. Walter Nolan could definitely be a disruptor in there to kind of free up Micah Parsons. And Dallas definitely does need interior defensive line help. I think that a lot of people point to running back here. I think their offensive line's decent enough that you can pretty much put anybody back there. They could end up. I think that they're going to end up re-signing Rico Dow at some point on a decently cheap deal to end up taking that over. And in this class, this running back class is insanely deep, so you can wait till the second, third round and still get a very good starting running back. This is a historic running back class, so I think you go a different position here, like a Walter Nolan, to end up filling that need, and then you wait on running back, and the Cowboys don't necessarily need to end up taking it right now. The Miami Dolphins go Tyler Booker. This is higher than what I usually have Booker and see him going, but I do love the fit. The Cowboys, or I think the Dolphins definitely do need offensive line help. I usually have Membu going here because, in my opinion, I do like Membu better. But Tyler Booker is definitely a solid starter. He's been in Alabama for 3 years, and I think he's going to be. He's definitely the highest floor player, so he's definitely going to be a pretty good player no matter what. But who knows about his ceiling? He's not going to be the highest ceiling, but he's definitely going to be a solid starter in this league for a long time. And they're going to want to protect Tua and make sure that he stays healthy and doesn't deal with injuries more nonstop. So this is going to help upgrade their interior of their offensive line that they haven't really done in a while. The Indianapolis Colts, they actually have them going Armand Membu. This is usually a Tyler Warren pick, but he's off the board at this point. Membu is one of my favorite tackles in this class, or guard. I do see him more playing guard in the NFL. He is like that Elijah Vera Tucker role where he's going to be playing guard mostly, in my opinion, and then he has the ability to flex out the tackle if you need him to. He has a very quick first step, and this is going to be good for the Colts to be able to create those running lanes for Taylor and Richardson, and allowing Richardson more protection to be able to come out and read the defense a little bit more if he's able to. He's going to come in and step in and start right away for the Colts at guard, in my opinion. And he definitely has one of the quicker and first steps and best hand placement of all these offensive linemen. He has a very high upside. Number 15, Atlanta Falcons, they go Mykel Williams. They definitely do need to upgrade their edge or interior, just their defensive line in general. In my opinion, this will be their first, true edge rusher that they've had in years. Um, and Daniel Jeremiah here in his comments that this is pretty much a guarantee that they're going to take edge rusher. They've taken offense the last couple of years, so they're definitely going to try to invest in that defense. Mykel Williams is a freak athlete. He's 6'5", 250. He has crazy long arms. He's kind of like that Trayvon Walker build for a couple of years ago, or Wilson from last year to the Raiders. So it really just depends on who ends up taking him if they're able to develop him and allow him to use these tools. But he is a freak athlete that needs to be taught how to use them because he's a very raw athlete. But if you can develop him, he's going to be one of the better pass rushers in the league one day if you can develop him the right way. Arizona Cardinals are going Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Kenneth Grant is a very high upside tackle. Daniel Jeremiah is comparing him to Dexter Lawrence here from Clemson, who actually went around this range. I think Dexter Lawrence went at 17 a couple of years ago. But the Cardinals do need interior defensive line. I think that they're either going to go interior defensive line if it's here. I think I had them going Walter Nolan, who I had falling in my latest mock draft I posted yesterday. So if you haven't seen that, please go and watch it. But I do think the Cardinals could be a sneaky pick for a receiver here, especially with Tedero McMillan still on the board. Imagine having Tedero McMillan and Marvin Harrison on the same offense for Kyler Murray, and then Trey McBride at tight end. That would be a crazy combo. So you do see Tedero McMillan falling here, which is crazy, and a lot of the receivers are falling. But a lot of these teams are going for other needs to be able to beef up their defense, and a lot of the defense lines around the league need that. Cincinnati Bengals, they go Jahdae Barron. He is one of the corners that have risen up a lot of boards from Texas. This is a guy that at first wasn't really seen as a first round pick. Now his crazy ball ability, and at this point, 17, the Bengals definitely are going to need to upgrade defense. The census is that they're probably going to franchise tag T. Higgins. So I think that they're going to look to try to upgrade defense in the draft. All they had was Trey Hendrickson pretty much last year. So this is a very good draft for the Bengals. So whether it's corner they end up taking, linebacker, or interior or edge, they definitely just need to get more talent on that defense, and that's what they're doing here. Number 18, Seahawks go Gray Zabel. They definitely do need an interior. They're hoping for Tyler Booker or Armand Membu, but both those guys are on the board. And Gray Zabel was honestly one of those guys that was crazy good at the Senior Bowl. He probably rose his stock the most. He was seen as kind of like a second round talent. And after the Senior Bowl, he was like a guaranteed first round pick right now. And for the interior offensive line, the Seattle Seahawks do need a lot of help. And Gray Zabel's seen as one of those guys that could potentially play all five positions. He can play center, guard, or tackle at any spot, and he's very flexible. His biggest concern was that he played at North Dakota State, but at the Senior Bowl, he was able to prove that he was very good for pretty much all. against all talent, and he's able to prove that he was a first round pick. He kind of reminds me of Graham Barton from a couple of years ago, or last year that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ended up taking. He reminds me of a lot of Graham Barton from last year from Duke. Speaking of the Buccaneers, Tedero McMillan has a crazy fall. Tedero McMillan's usually definitely a top 10 pick at the latest, the number 8 to the Panthers. Daniel Jeremiah has him fallen all the way down to 19 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are going to lose probably Chris Godwin in free agency unless he signs back on a cheaper deal. Mike Evans is getting older, so it makes sense. So you're pretty much drafting another weapon to replace either Godwin for a couple years and then eventually to replace Mike Evans. Well, their core is definitely getting old, and they do need to replace them and get more talent in there, especially if Chris Godwin's leaving after the crazy starts of the year they had, but he ended up having that season-ending injury. So if Tedero Millen falls all the way to you at this point, you're definitely taking him, and I think that he should have definitely gone a lot earlier, but I guess we'll see when the draft comes around. 20, the Broncos go love one. The Broncos definitely are going to aim to get an offensive weapon for Bo Nix, whether it's at the tight end position, running back, or receiver. And Colson Loveland's more of that Brock Bowers type build that Sean Payton, I think, would love. He's going to work out the slot a lot. He's going to be a lot of quick routes so you can get the ball out quick with Bo Nix. And he's going to be more of that receiving tight end that Bo Nix definitely is. And Daniel Jeremiah calls him the Joker on the offense that he can pretty much use anywhere with his great length and quickness and big playability that he has. And that Sean Payton's going to end up falling in love with that as an offensive weapon. Pittsburgh Steelers actually go Ashton Genty. He falls all the way down here. Genty is seen as probably the best running back in this class, and I just don't think the Steelers are going to take running back after how Najee Harris played this past year. Najee Harris and Jalen Warren ended up having pretty great years for the Steelers since Russell Wilson was there. I think that they're going to look to bring back Justin Fields for one more year at least to kind of test them out. But Genty here, I don't know to the Steelers. I do like him more to a couple of other teams. They do already have Harris and Genty, but we said the same thing about the Lions when they took Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and then it ended up being one of the best running back duos in the league. So maybe that ends up happening here. The Chargers end up going back-to-back running backs. This is something that I ended up having. Amarion Hampton. A lot of people are falling in love with Amarion Hampton. He's flying up a lot of boards here, and the Chargers definitely do need a running back to go alongside Justin Herbert. They had J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, who were two guys that are injured all the time. And with them being free agents, they're looking to bring in another weapon. And Amarion Hampton, especially with Jim Harbaugh's run game, they could definitely be more, add more firepower to that offense to be able to make more explosive plays to complement Justin Herbert. And I definitely do think he's going to end up going in the first round on a lot of team. I think there's going to be multiple running backs that do go in the first round in the draft. Green Bay Packers, Josh Simmons. I've been saying this for my last couple mocks. A lot of people are going to have Green Bay going corner. I'm guilty of this as well. I do think Green Bay could be a shocking pick and that they're going to end up taking somebody like an offensive line or an edge player because their edge fell off. But them going Josh Simmons here. Josh Simmons was seen as somebody that could have been offensive tackle one in this class, but he ended up getting hurt and having an injury through 6 games, and had to miss the rest of the year. So it's also going to depend on medicals for him at the combine, how teams feel about him. But I think he's gonna recover pretty well. And the Packers, I think that they're gonna be a sneaky team to look for offensive line here. I had him taking Gray Zabel in this situation. He doesn't really fall to him. So Josh Simmons to the Green Bay Packers. I think this definitely does make sense, and they're a sneaky O-line taking team in the draft. The Vikings go Travion Henderson. Now, in my opinion, I do like Judkins more, but a lot of teams could like Henderson. He is talking about how this could be like Detroit with Aaron Jones is heading to free agency. So they're looking to kind of replace him, and then he's comparing him to Jahmyr Gibbs. So you have 3 running backs going in the last 4 picks, and Travion Henderson, this running back class is just loaded, so it makes a lot of sense for a lot of them to end up taking a chance on a running back and kind of replacing Aaron Jones. I do think the Vikings do need to add to their secondary though and upgrade their offensive line. So maybe like a Connerly or somebody, but a lot of the offensive line is taken. So if you don't like Connerly, you kind of take a flyer on a running back here and to upgrade it and kind of give JJ McCarthy help when he comes back next year. The Houston Texans, they go Emeka Ibuka. Stephon Diggs is going to free agency. Tank Tank Dell's going to be out pretty much all next year, probably with his crazy knee injury they had. So it's just Nico Collins, and then you add Emeka Ibuka to it. He's more that yak demon that's going to end up getting quick routes and quick catches and break a couple tackles to get extra yardage, and he's going to be a favorite weapon for CJ Stroud. So whether receiver they end up liking here, that's definitely who's going to be taken for the Texans. The Rams go shocking. A lot of people think that they're going to go offensive line. But he has them going Darius Alexander. Honestly, I don't really know a whole lot about Darius Alexander out Toledo. I do know a lot of these mock guys are having him rise up some boards, and they're definitely starting to like him. Daniel Jeremiah says they generated some first round buzz here in the league. It does make sense. The Rams, they got a Jared Verse, who's ended up being one of the best young edge rushers in the league. They could upgrade their interior. I do think that they would need to go offensive line here with Josh Connerly, but most of the offensive line are off the board, so I guess you go a different direction. 27, the Ravens go Shamir Stewart. This is a guy that I usually have a lot higher. He is someone that rose his stock a lot in the Senior Bowl. He was seen more only as a run stuffer, and at the Senior Bowl, he came out and showed a lot of his pass rushing moves, and he pretty much cemented himself as a first round pick. Who he was kind of like on the border there. And the Ravens could need edge help. They could also need offensive line, so they end up going to edge here to boost up their defense to get more explosive on the defensive line. 28, Detroit Lions go Donovan Jackson. I know whenever you think about the Lions, you think about that dominant offensive line, so you don't really expect them to go offensive line. Now, Donovan Jackson is definitely a shocking pick to go first round here. There's more offensive linemen in this class going in the first round than what most mocks have. But Donovan Jackson was able to step in for Josh Simmons and play just as well. And he's seen somebody that could, probably play guard at the next level, even though he did play tackle towards the end of the year last year. And Kevin Zeitler, who was a starter for the Lions, is going to be a free agent. So Donovan Jackson, I do think the Lions are going to look to either go defensive help, maybe an edge rusher or secondary or offensive line. So Donovan Jackson stepping in for Josh Simmons and showing what he can do, and playing very well is going to boost him up. I do think he's going to go in the second, but Jeremiah has him here in the first, so it's a little bit higher than what I think. But the Lions definitely do need offensive line help to replace Kevin Zeitler. And the Commanders go Jahad Campbell. The Commanders definitely do need defensive help. They still have Jaden Daniels on offense. They just couldn't get a stop against the Eagles in the NFC Championship. The Eagles put up 50 points. So Jahad Campbell's, is a great fit for them. He could end up being an edge rusher, as Daniel Jeremiah says. But I do think he stays a linebacker and he kind of learns from Bobby Wagner for a year, until he ends up taking over. And the Commanders desperately need help on defense. The Buffalo Bills get their weapon for Josh Allen, and they're going Matthew Golden from Texas. There's a lot of receivers still on the board at this point. A lot of the receivers have fell. Luther Burton's still on the board. They end up going Matthew Golden, who a lot of people have as wide receiver one in this class. He's a very crazy, speedy guy that has a lot to do on the deep ball and kind of gets behind defenses. They definitely do have needs on defense. The Bills do, but they're going to get a weapon for Josh Allen. Kind of how the Chiefs got Worthy last year. They go out and get Matthew Golden to test out Josh Allen's big arm and kind of be that big, deep threat guy. The Chiefs go Josh Connerly. Connerly falls a little bit in this mock draft, and they're probably going to be losing Trey Smith. They're going to be losing Jawan Taylor, who did not play very well. So they're going to draft a tackle after getting dominated up front. And Patrick Mahomes was pressured pretty much every play and sacked almost a record, Super Bowl record 7 times. So you get Josh Connerly to come in and play tackle, and you get to move Joe Thuney back in the guard. So then you settle that one, and Connerly could develop very well for the Chiefs, end up being a future All-Pro tackle and a need that they definitely need to address to help out Patrick Mahomes win another Super Bowl. And then lastly, pick number 32, you have Malachi Starks, safety. He's kind of fallen down quite a bit. He had a disappointing junior year. He was amazing his freshman, sophomore years. But the Eagles, they're just adding to their young secondary here to go in with Reed Blankenship and Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. They're just adding to that incredibly young, amazing secondary to pretty much hopefully get and run it back. They've been very successful Georgia players, so he's pretty much just adding to that future Georgia squad that the Eagles have that they've been taking of all the all-stars from Georgia. And he kind of sneaks in here at the end of the first round to add to that secondary. So there's several guys in here that weren't taken. Luther Burton wasn't taken. Jackson Dart wasn't taken. Some of these guys fall in the second round, and a lot of the running backs. So it really just depends what ends up happening. Free agency will end up being able to tell a little bit more of where these teams are going to go. But please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agreed or disagree with that I talked about, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for future NFL content I'm going to be putting out. And thanks for watching.
Yeah, feel like John Morant. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the ball. Now I never fumble. I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Morant. Need a triple double.